NTUC Enterprise Chairman Lim Boon Heng has given a pretty clear assurance that the social mission will not be compromised.
I'm not convinced that it's possible for income under foreign ownership to achieve the things that he set out to be.
Some people actually said that you were delusional. So why did you actually contest?
I thought I had a fair chance of winning.
Really?
I thought so, but maybe I was not as wise as those other people. My decisions are never for myself. My decisions are always what is good for others. So it doesn't matter that I lose an election. What matters to me is that I should be able to voice for a segment of the people, the issues that concerns them. I believe that we must treat people fairly. And what I don't like about, I hope it can change in Singapore, is that people are not being treated fairly.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you very much for making the time. Please
It's
come
my
in.
pleasure.
Please come in. So we're going to get you a drink.
Wow, thank you.
There you go.
I am thirsty.
And there you go. What we have there is a Nanari Sabat, something very refreshing, as with the basil seeds as well, and yuzu. Enjoy.
Basil
Thank you.
seeds, okay.
Thank you.
And this is for me. Thank you. And let's commence the interview soon. Tan Kin Lian, thank you very much for making time to join us today. Today, I'd like my audience, my viewers, to know who Tan Kin Lian is. There are different versions of Tan Kin Lian. There are different interpretations of Tan Kin Lian. But I hope, with your help, being honest, we'll get a better, more accurate sense.
I'll do my best.
Okay. Let's talk about NTUC, hot topic, right? NTUC Income, right? Now, you were NTUC Income CEO from 1977 to 2007.
That's right.
That's 30 years. And in the 30 years that you were GM and then CEO of NTUC Income, the assets had increased from $28 million to $17 billion. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Now, that's 600 times increase in assets. Right. Now, you also had the reputation of insisting on flying economy class, even on long-haul trips.
That's right.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Why are you so stingy?
NTUC Income was a cooperative, and one of the important ways to operate a cooperative was to keep the expenses low. And flying economy class is a way of keeping expenses low. But it's not just flying economy class. In all the decisions we make, the way we spend money, we look for cost-effective ways. We don't overspend money, and because of that, we are able to keep our expenses low, and we are able to keep the premium low, so that our policyholders pay a lower premium for their services. So, being frugal by keeping expenses low is a very important part of the way we operate.
If you could tell us a little bit more about the nature and definition of cooperatives. Why is it so important for a cooperative to be run on cost minimization and being so frugal? Why is that so important for you?
In the case of a stock company, a profit-making company, the goal is to make the most profit for your shareholders.
Okay.
But in the case of a cooperative, under the law, the dividend we pay to our shareholders is limited, not more than 6% a year under Singapore law. So our goal is therefore how to give the best service at the lowest cost to our policyholders. And one way is to keep our expenses low. So we do have a good record over my 30 years that our premiums are lower, and our policyholders recognize that, and they appreciate that. So this is the way we operate.
What was the need to set it up at that time?
Income was set up in 1970. So when I joined, it was already 7 years old. It was set up by Dr. Goh Chok Tong, and he said the trade unions need to have a financial base. And with just $1 million in capital, he said you should set up a insurance cooperative so that you can accumulate funds, which then can be used to start up other cooperatives like FairPrice, like transport. So that was the idea, to give the trade unions a financial base, and starting with income.
Okay. Fast forward to now. Why did you get so upset with the recent announcement of the proposed sale of 51% shares to the German insurance company Allianz? Why were you so upset with that?
When I left Income in 2007, I kept away. I let the new management, the new board, run Income in the way that they find best. If they want to be more commercial, that's their decision. And there was, about 2 years ago, a move to privatize Income.
2022.
About 2 years ago.
Yep.
And by privatizing, that means they changed from cooperative to a stock company.
Yep.
And even then, I didn't want to express my view. I think it's not good, but I didn't want to express my view. So when the latest happening to sell Income, or 51% of Income, to a German insurer, it was actually Tan Sui Jie, who was very vocal about it.
Very vocal. In fact, he wrote to the chairman of MAS, Tan Kin Lian.
So he was actually, and he has his views, which I agree. I was not pushing for that myself. But later on, when I studied the details, I become quite concerned because Income has got more than 1 million policyholders, and their total lifetime savings. They have their policies for maybe 20, 30, 40 years. The total life insurance money belonging to them amount to $32 billion. And because I know about how it operates, of the 32 billion, this is a bit technical. The insurance policy, the contractual, the guaranteed benefit is about 80%.
Yeah.
About 20% is actually discretionary.
Yes.
And that 20% amount to about 6 billion. So I'm worried that if it is controlled by a foreign insurer, a profit-making insurer, that this 20%, 6 billion, could be at risk. For example, I'm not suggesting that they will do it. The new management could spend that money away in a wasteful manner, and that will be at the expense of the existing policyholders.
How would you describe the profile of the typical NTUC policyholder?
They are the common people of Singapore, 1 million of them.
And older demographics?
Mostly older, but there will be younger people as well. It represents the general profile of Singaporeans. Okay. So I'm worried that the 32 billion, of which 20% is discretionary, then that could be at risk. So I wrote to the chairman of MAS, who happened to be a minister, Gan Kim Yong, to express my concern that this is risky. Now, when Income was under the NTUC, I will be quite confident because Income has been under NTUC for a long, long time. and they have been managing the finances and the policy decisions quite well.
And also the social mission, right?
There's also the social mission, but when it goes to a foreign insurer, I don't know.
Right.
And I express this concern to MAS and says, before you approve the sale, make sure that there are adequate safeguards.
Yeah.
So this is actually my concern.
Yeah. So NTUC Income today, it's called Income Insurance Limited, right? It's a private company, is 72% owned by NTUC Enterprise. Am I correct?
Yes.
Now, NTUC Enterprise chairman Lim Boon Heng has given a pretty clear assurance to the public and especially the policyholders that the social mission will not be compromised. Now, if I could read what he said in I could quote. This is from Mr. Lim Boon Heng on Income-Allianz deal in the Straits Times interview, 31st July 2024, right? I quote him, "I would say that the fundamental objectives of providing for the financial well-being of the people and their families, particularly lower income, are important. At the time when income was set up, the cooperative concept was seen as the ideal structure to deliver such objectives. Today, there are other structures that are possible, and in recent years, the concept of stakeholder capitalism has come to the fore. Doing well to do good and do right is actually being pronounced by businesses around the world," unquote. What exactly did, this appears to be an assurance of sorts to policyholders, right? But what did he mean by today there are other structures that are possible? What are these other structures that he's talking about?
I do not wish to comment on what somebody else said,
Okay,
especially when I don't understand
okay,
what it is and how it can be achieved.
okay.
For this particular assurance that Mr. Lim Boon Heng, whom I greatly respect and I worked with him a long time, I will just politely say, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that it's possible for income under foreign ownership to achieve the things that he set out to be. So I will just politely say it is not convincing.
But if you take what he said, the assurance that Mr. Lim Boon Heng gave at face value and in good faith, it seems to make some sense. If he may know something that we don't know, maybe some kind of a binding commitment from Allianz. I don't know, but doesn't it make sense where all boats will benefit when the tide is lifted?
Again, I will say I'm not convinced, and I'm not convinced that there is some hidden reason that cannot be disclosed. If there's some assurances, it has to be stated. It has to be publicized. I do not believe that it is wise to take assurances that are not expressly, not expressed clearly, and not legally binding.
Some people I've spoken to before this interview, have said, quite critical of you, that you are old school. You are not moving with the times. How would you respond to that?
I again will not comment on what other people say, especially when they don't say it in front of me. And there are people who have got malicious motives. They go out to smear other people.
What if we assume that the motive is not malicious? Do you think that you have moved with the times?
I certainly have moved with the times, and certainly my view about how things should be run efficiently for the benefit of the wider public, the common people, I'm very much up to date.
What is interesting is you're not the only one who is supposedly old school. Former NTUC Income CEO Tan Swee Chee, has weighed in very, very strongly, a lot stronger than you, in his letters to the chairman of MES and so on, and in response to Mr. Lim Boon Heng's assurance that the social mission will remain sacrosanct. If you'll allow me to just quote one part of what he said, Swee Chee, he said, I quote, "Crucially, Allianz is a commercial profit-making entity. It is difficult to see how Allianz, as the majority shareholder in control of NTUC Income, is going to prioritize the social mission of NTUC Income over Allianz's own profits. Indeed, I am not aware of any such binding commitment that has been given by Allianz to subordinate its profit motive to NTUC's social mission," unquote. There's also another interesting quote. This is from Allianz Group CEO Oliver Bate, and he was quoted as saying, I quote, "We are not in Asia to buy top line. We want to build a resoundingly profitable business," close unquote. So if you read this, one wonders on what basis do we have the confidence that the majority shareholder under the proposal, Allianz, at 51%, would actually subordinate their profit motivation or profit motive to social mission?
My view is in line with Tan Swee Chee. He made very sensible points, which I agree. And I also believe that it is difficult for Allianz, I hope I pronounced it correctly, Allianz, to pay $2.2 million to take over control of NTUC Income and then do charity, forget about making profits. It's not possible.
Allow me to understand this, the financials. Allianz proposed injection at the shareholder price comes to about 2 billion.
2.2.
2.2 billion. 2.2 billion Sing.
Yes.
Sing dollars. Now, with the 2.2 billion Sing dollars, what are they able to access? How much of wealth within the company would they be able to access?
The total assets of income is about 40 billion.
40.
40. And of which 32 billion belong to the life policy holders.
Okay.
This represents their long-term savings over 30, 40 years. They will control the 40 billion, of which the critical part is 32 billion. And of the 32 billion, the contractual liability is 80%, about 80%. So 20% is not guaranteed. So if, for example, the income in the future only pay 80% of the 32 billion, the policyholders will have no say legally. This is the part that I'm very concerned about, that a large part of the money is discretionary. Well, not large, but it's 20%. It's quite a lot of money. So by putting in 2.2 billion, they could have access to control the whole of 40 billion.
But surely MAS is not going to allow that to happen.
Under the law, there's nothing to stop them. That's why I wrote...
Nothing to stop Allianz.
Stop Allianz to manage it in the way they think fit. This is the structure.
Okay.
And that's why I wrote to MAS to point out this aspect, which I'm quite familiar with. MAS gave me a reply after a month or so. They are studying this matter. Another 2 months have passed. I have not heard from MAS. They have not given their approval yet. I think they should find a way to put in some adequate safeguard on this $6 billion.
I would like to hope, and I do have the faith, that the Singapore government, and in particular the Monetary Authority of Singapore, would not take this lightly, especially since it has been brought up quite explicitly, and I would like to not have reason to believe otherwise.
I hope to share your trust and belief, but from the statements I heard in Parliament from the ministers involved, I worry whether they understand the issue. I worry. They might have the good intention, but they may not understand the issue. At least they have not identified what I pointed out to them as being a relevant issue.
Just out of curiosity, Kin Lian, what is the total number of shareholders today?
Policyholders or shareholders?
Sorry, I beg your pardon, policyholders.
The policyholders, if you look at life insurance, is more than 1 million. Then you have also people who bought health insurance
Yes.
policies, motor car insurance, and some of them would have both life insurance and motor car and health insurance. I don't have the exact figure, but I guess it would be about 1.5 million to 2.
And how does that compare with the other major insurance companies like Prudential and
I believe NTUC has the largest number of policyholders.
retail?
Largest number of policyholders. Of course, their savings their policies are relatively smaller. So in terms of money, the other companies might be bigger, but in terms of number of people served by income, it is quite a large number. I think it's probably the biggest.
It's obviously a significant number, 1.5 million. And the quantum may not be large compared to the others, but all the more because it's an indication that they are less wealthy.
For these policyholders, the money with income could represent a large part of their savings.
Of their savings and their wealth.
Yeah, because they are of moderate income.
And they are lower in the pyramid.
Although I must say that we also have, income also has got policyholders of the middle income level and some of the wealthy ones.
But is it safe to say that the vast majority would be lower?
Yes, in general, it would be on average lower than the other companies.
And that was the raison d'etre of setting up NTUC Income in the first place, I believe.
Well, in those days, they don't have a good way to invest their savings. So income provide a very good service. Today, it might be different in that the financial market has developed, the stock market has developed, and then unit trusts and
there are
other funds.
many other safety nets, many other ways of investing.
So ordinary people can have other ways to invest, but I must say most of them are still quite not familiar with these investment instruments.
Yes.
So it's very important that you have got institutions like Income, who is formed not to maximize profit, but to provide a service to these people and an institution that can be trusted.
Yes.
Now, if you are running a business to make the maximum profit, it's very hard for your customers to trust you, because the customer will say, "Hey, are you working for yourself to make more profit? Are you taking care of me?"
Yeah.
So therefore, in Singapore, it's quite important that we have got organization, business enterprises, social enterprises that people can trust.
Yeah.
And for income to be converted away from this mission, it is it's a big disappointment. Okay. It's a big disappointment.
Now, talking about dealing with people who may not be very savvy in terms of investment instruments, right, or structured products, I'd like to go back to 2008, year 2008, when the Lehman Brothers, as a huge company, collapsed. And as a result, many of the products that were based on them, like it's often called the Lehman mini bonds, right? But technically, I don't think they were actual bonds, but many of them many Singaporeans lost a huge amount of money. I think 10,000 Singaporeans lost more than $500 million total of money. I could be wrong with the exact, but significant amount of money, right? And many of these people were people who didn't have the savvy to understand structured products and the risks that came with it, right? And you, as an individual, stepped up at that point in time. You stepped up and you started advising people who lost money. You went online, number one. Many of them turned up in Hong Lim Park, where you had rallies, where you were explaining what their rights are and what they can do. Of course, to the government, you may have been seen to have mischievous intent. Secondly, you also, if I recall correctly, urged some of them to appear at MAS building. And some of them actually did go to MAS building. That's the level of trust they had in you as a regular Singaporean. But most importantly, you initiated a petition based on the concerns identified by almost 1,000 individuals. I think 993 individuals, signatories for that petition. And that petition was handed over to the Monetary Authority of Singapore by you, right? Now, that's a huge thing that happened in 2008, right? What made you get involved in that? Were you a rebel rouser?
I was not aware about these products when they were introduced. So when Lehman Brothers collapsed and many of the investors were told that they're going to lose all of their money, they approached me. Now, at that time, I was quite active in Blogger.
Yes.
That was the time before Facebook.
Yes.
I was quite active in Blogger. And I get through this social media, I get material sent to me, and the people who invested, they then tell me about the product and about how they were then sold these products. Then when
sold by the banks. And
sold by the
institutions.
banks and the stockbroking firms.
Yeah.
But when I study this product, I say, how can this be allowed to be sold? These products are not suitable for ordinary people. They are very complicated. So I said that's not fair. You cannot sell this kind of products to people who are not familiar. And you might ask them to make a declaration, I understand what I am doing.
Yeah.
They don't. So therefore, the products, the structured products were not allowed, not suitable to be sold.
Would that be considered mis-selling?
I would even go further. They should not be allowed to be sold in the first place. Of course, I blame the Monetary Authority of Singapore. You are the regulator. Here is a financial product. Did you study the product and be convinced that it is suitable to be sold? If you don't study and you just make a declaration to the general public, you must read the document carefully,
Yeah.
That's not good enough.
Yeah.
So therefore, my main unhappiness was with MAS. And then, of course, the banks as well. The people who sold the products in the banks, they themselves don't understand what the product was. So therefore, what pushed me was, how can we allow such a situation to happen that the regulator does not check these
The
things?
due diligence.
The banks themselves also, they just blindly trust that these products are okay and start to sell. So that was actually my main unhappiness.
So what did you do with the petition? And what did the petition ask for?
I cannot remember what it was asked for.
I believe
think,
you asked for compensation.
Yeah, I think it must be adequate compensation.
Yes.
Adequate compensation. Now, what is adequate is something that should be studied, but it has to be adequate compensation.
You also wanted the government to investigate.
Yep. There was a particular product introduced by a local bank, I will not mention the name, sold to investors in Singapore and sold to investors in Hong Kong. The investors in Singapore get back a compensation of a fraction of what they invested in. The Hong Kong government, the regulator, insists that this bank compensate the Hong Kong investors 100%.
In full.
In full. Of course, I think that's very unfair to the people of Singapore, that they are not compensated fairly like what the people in Hong Kong for that particular product from that bank was compensated.
In a nutshell, the general sense was that it was, your petition, the petition that you helped to draft, that was signed by almost 1,000 individuals who lost money, made a difference. It did make a difference because in the end, I think the total amount of money that was disbursed, even though they were not legally required, the banks, the financial institutions, came up to more than $100 million.
Which was
a fraction.
Which is inadequate. And I also am very unhappy that the MAS do not talk to me to get my views about what would be a fair compensation. They just decide on their own. Right. And I think that's not good. So I think these are things which worry me as a citizen of Singapore. We should have better processes and then better ways to solve grievances and not handle in this way.
Well, I guess if you look at the bottle as half full or quarter full, you made a difference. And there are a lot of people I've spoken to who were involved, who lost money, who are extremely grateful to you for being there to provide the advice. Now, in the interest of time, I'd like to now go to another dimension of your public service. People may not know about this, but you were a very active member of the People's Action Party, the ruling party. And in fact, you were very active for 30 years. And you were branch secretary of the Marine Parade constituency. You were chairman of the Marine Parade CCMC,
that's a community
center.
Yeah.
And you were very active. And that happened to be the then Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong's ward, And then all of a sudden, in 2008, you stepped down, you resigned. And is it coincidental that it was about the same time, 2007, that you resigned or you were asked to step down by the board of NTUC Income? So it appears to me that sometime around 2007, 2008, you came out of being a favored son, so to speak. And then your public service took a different tone and a different route.
Goh Chok Tong was the first member of parliament for Marine Parade. He approached me and I helped him build up the community. We started the first residence committee.
It was then a single member constituency.
Yes, it was single member. We started the residence committee, and we built up a grassroots organization that was comprising of a lot of people who come forward to do their part for the community.
Yeah.
And we even had a fundraising committee to raise funds for the community center. And that fundraising committee raised most of the funds entirely from the residents of Marine Parade. Today, you can always find some rich contractor who are going to donate a large sum, but in those days it was totally from the ground up. The camaraderie at that time was excellent, and that was something that happened. I was actually active only for 7 years. Then I moved out of Marine Parade, and I passed, let the people who stay there take over the show.
But you also resigned from the party.
No, that was after 7 years.
After 7 years.
So I was not actively involved with Goh Chok Tong for 30 years.
Yes, okay.
So I've been relatively inactive in the constituency and in the PAP for the next 20 over years. And then over the years, I don't like many of the policies of the PAP. I don't have a say, but I don't like it. I don't like the graduate mothers policy. I don't like the GST, and I don't like many of those things which I think were harmful to ordinary people, make the cost of living too high.
Right.
So I disagree with many of those policies.
Was this a key motivation for you to run for president?
So let me then answer the earlier partner. So I stayed on within the party when I was still running NTUC, because that would be, if I resigned earlier, that would be inconvenient. Inconvenient for the party and for me. So when I left NTUC Income, it was a good time to say, okay, I have no more obligation to the powers that be.
To the establishment.
To the establishment.
I just want to find out. I have this question, and quite a few people had asked me to ask this question. You ran for election in 2011. You got about 4+%. Last year, 2023, you got 14%. Significantly higher, even though President Tharman Shanmugaratnam got 70% of the votes, you still got 14%. Now, did you seriously think that you had a chance of winning? Most people didn't think. In fact, some people actually said that you were delusional in thinking that you had a fair chance of winning the election. So why did you actually contest?
I contested in 2011 to be the voice of the people. I wanted to be able to use the office of the president to articulate what the ordinary people feel. Then I contested in 2023 to bring out issues that concerns the cost of living, security of jobs, those the bread and butter issues. So those are my two reasons. I thought I had a fair chance of winning.
Really?
I thought so, but maybe I was not as wise as those other people. I believe, I thought I got a fair chance, and I do know why I got much lower votes than I expected. And this will be the subject of another discussion.
Yes.
It will be the subject of another discussion. So those were my two reasons. Most people, when they make a decision based upon what is good for their own benefit, their self-interest. My decisions are never for myself. My decisions are always what is good for others. So it doesn't matter that I lose an election. To me, it doesn't matter that I have to spend a small sum of money that I lose. It doesn't matter. What matters to me is that I should be able to voice for a segment of the people, that the issues that concerns them. So it's cost of living and so on. So those are my reasons.
So here's the second last question I have. Some people do observe, and I don't disagree with that observation, that you come across as a person who is party-scorned. That means you're angry. You didn't feel that you were treated well. NTUC Income, PAP, presidential election, that you got a raw deal. That you are actually an unhappy man who is unhappy with the way you were treated, and therefore your modus operandi is to go out there and hit out at the establishment.
These people make the observation reflecting themselves. This is how they see the world. I see it very differently. I said, let me express as best as I can the problems faced by ordinary people. To me, all these difficulties and the smear I get does not matter. That's why I say when people smear, they are reflecting themselves.
Okay.
They are reflecting themselves. So I say, I do what I can to voice out what I think are important, and after that, I will then very happily go and lead my own life.
My final question along those lines, Kin Lian. Would you consider yourself someone who looks at the bottle as half full or half empty?
Half full. One of the values I have is to be positive. On any issue, I see what is the positive side. I'm afraid the prevailing culture of many people in Singapore is to look at the negative. I'm positive. I look at the positive, and this is one of my core values, to be positive. And I hope more Singaporeans will embrace that value of being positive. My other values are to be honest and to look at public service, to have the courage, to have the courage. So those, and another value, fairness. I believe that we must treat people fairly. And what I don't like about, I hope it can change in Singapore, is that people are not being treated fairly.
Tan Kin Lian, thank you very much. Keep doing what you're doing. A loving critic. Thank you.